Good evening, good day. Thank you for joining me once again. So, every story has its beginning, and so I will start from the beginning of my story. My earliest memory, I think, is one of myself being on a plane and us flying. Now, I don't know whether we were flying to or flying from, but my mother's husband was stationed in Naples. And so we spent 3 years in Naples, Italy. Um, and that is one of my earliest memories of being on the plane. And again, I don't remember whether we were flying there or flying back. Um, I remember my room being sort of, and I don't know, it felt like the door would close tight, almost like being almost in a jail cell. I know it wasn't in a jail cell, but that's sort of like the memory, or at least the emotions that are evoked from that. Um, my mother believes that at some point, either a babysitter or something, or someone that was watching me, something occurred whereas I was maybe too tight in a blanket or something. Because my entire life, I have had this thing where I cannot have like people smothering me, or it feels like I'm being smothered. Um, so I could never play like, contact sports like football or something like that because, um, or anything that would require people to be able to collapse and fall on you, because I always felt as like someone was smothering me. So growing up, uh, they had me play every type of sport imaginable, but the one that I was able to avoid was football for that very reason, because I'd almost go into, I'll say, like a panic attack, um, to have someone that close to me where it felt like I was just losing my breath. So, um, as you get older and you have relationships and the like, um, I learned to sort of uh, socially be, I guess, fake it till you can make it to a certain extent. Whereas I've learned to sort of um, allow people to, do all of that huggy, smuggy stuff. Um, but the truth of the matter is, uh, I would rather people not, because it just makes me feel as if I am just dying inside, and I'm trying to catch my breath. Um, and that's about all I know from the extent of where it stems from, the root cause of it. I just know that um, I feel like I'm about to just die when that occurs. So we were stationed in Italy, and I originally thought that husband was my father. Um, and nothing was ever said. So, you know, one day, some other, they break up. We come back to the States. Um, and she just packed all our stuff up while he was away. And next thing I know, we're living in a whole nother state. And um, some man comes over to visit that I've never seen in my life. And I didn't, apparently, according to her, I didn't like him. Um, and that was the first and the last time that I had seen my biological father. Um, as and I have really no recollection of even meeting him or seeing him. She told me that this occurred, but I personally have no recollection of this. Um, and I'm sure no clear introduction of who that was made. Um, then the next thing I know, she is with the stepfather who eventually adopted me once we settled in South Jersey. But before that, we took a little detour to New York, where we lived out in Long Island for a few years. And I'm saying a few years, but but when we arrived to South Jersey, I was in the second or third grade. So all of this is taking place before that particular time. We stayed in Philadelphia for about 6 months while the house in South Jersey was being built. Um, and we stayed with my, he later became my adoptive father, but my stepfather at that time, his mother's ex-husband. And his mother lived on one block and her ex-husband lived on another. And his grandmother lived in the same block as his mother, but like I'm gonna say like 10 houses down. Those people hated me. Now he had some adoptive about children that were adopted from a previous marriage, and the sun rose and set with those children. So it wasn't as if he had some biological children running around or it was something of that nature. They were adopted, and I wasn't biologically his, but you would think that that really wouldn't make a difference in that case then. But something about me they just couldn't stand. And my mother thought that if she fought hard enough, she could make those people want me, or in her mind, make them treat me like they treated his other two children. These people would buy gifts for the other children and not give to me, and that sent my mother up a wall. And she quickly put a stop to that. But you can't stop the feelings of being left out, the feelings of people having to tolerate you. And that's where I guess the beginning of this toleration begins. It begins with his family and him, because to a large extent he tolerated me because he wanted my mother, and he couldn't have my mother unless he'd have me along. Um, and her focus was always financial security. So she thought that as long as she could bully her way into making them at least appear to treat everyone equal, that was good enough. But it's hard to describe when you are in a room with people, and even when you're in your own home and these people come to visit and you're tolerated. These people, if they had any choice, they would not be around you. And, there's nothing more that I wanted in life but to have a family, a large family too. Um, I didn't have a biological grandmother because my biological grandmother was dead long before I ever thought about being born. Um, didn't have a biological grandfather around. So I would have loved to have had a grandmother, or, a great grandmother to be there. Um, but that was not in the cards for me. The only, the closest ones that I had, um, that would have been his family, and as I said, uh, I was just tolerated. All of their true love and affection went to his children from that previous marriage. Um, and so that, left me feeling very, again, isolated and alone. And it was a hard pill to swallow. But, I did, because there was nothing I could really do about it. I just had to accept things as they were and move on. Um, it just, it just, I guess I'm just thinking about, wow, how I knew that I always had that sensation of being isolated and alone, but yet there always seemed to have been people around, and I could not quite put my finger on why did I always have this sense of just being alone and isolated. And really what it was is the people tolerating me. Um, you want to be surrounded by love and warmth. And my mother did the best she could do with what she had. But what she had was limited because um, of the circumstances of her life. And mind you, I understand why she's the way that she is. And I'm not making excuses for it because we all have to do better. We have to be responsible as adults for how we behave, regardless of what occurred when we were younger. We have to, as adults, get therapy, But we have to try to be better people and not make a vicious cycle of what has occurred. And if you don't stop and try to work on your trauma, then you just spread your trauma to future generations. And so then what's the point of having future generations when you just continue to build broken people? So I'm going to end on that note, and we will pick back up in the next stream with more of my life, my beginnings. Thank you all for joining me and taking this ride with me. Thank you.